So the red arrow is always pointing down. And 0 is right at that point. So if the person tilts their head this way, you can measure their flexion. If it moves backwards, you can measure their extension by looking at the one on the side. In the front, you're going to be able to have them tilt from one side to the other to get their lateral flexion. And on the top is a compass. And so if their head is flat, it won't work if their head is tilted forward or backward or sideways because the needle will stick, okay? But what you can do is the outer ring spins, and you can zero this out. It doesn't matter if you zero it out to the white or the red. But then when the person rotates relative to north, you'll be able to get a measurement. Now the compass is a little bit slow to react because there is a little bit of friction there, so you do need to make sure that they hang out there at end range to get a sense of that. Now you'll notice that everything we've done is active range of motion. We really don't measure passive range of motion in the cervical spine, so we only measure active. We will, I will show you in a minute how you can feel for end feels for cervical range of motion, which will help you with your differential diagnosis, but it's not something that we document. Okay, so I'm going to let these two go ahead and do the demo for how to give instructions and how to read the device.
Would you like to participate in our cervical range of motion? All right. Just like this. It's a hot look. It was popular today. It really was. Her crooked nose. Probably. Okay. All right. The first thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you to try to take your right shoulder, or your right ear to your right shoulder, but keep your nose facing towards me, please. 45, and you can relax back to center. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now it's about 55. So a little bit more on the left than on the right.
And then, those of you who are kind of straight on, you can see that she moves more that way. Okay.
For the next one I'm going to do with you is try to bring your chin to your chest, please.
She's also not sitting up straight. Shocker. I mean, you're deviating to your
trying,
left.
but it's not working.
She's not. Mike, can you see that she's not straight left, right? She's shifted over to her left. It's interesting.
Don't dance. All right, can you bring your chin to your chest? So it's 69-ish, 68.
Okay, you should watch Jen because her movement's very interesting. It's much more interesting than any number you're
Interesting.
So interesting.
So when she's in the chair, she likes to sit heavier on her left than on her right. Do you see that her weight is shifted a little bit to her left? She's corrected it a little bit, but that's still where she wants to live. And go ahead and flex for us. Do you see how she doesn't go straight down and it's not a smooth flexion? Yeah, exactly. And come on back up. And do you see how it's almost like staccato? It's not a smooth movement. It's like a ratchet, maybe. Staccato maybe is more appealing. Sure.
Oh, there it was.
Whoa!
Like a speed bump.
Yeah. And that's part of it is she's got a fairly significant thoracic kyphosis, so she's getting. So let's have her go ahead and extend. Can you? Okay, where is she getting that extension? Her thoracic is staying pretty much like this, which then is locking her lower cervical. So her upper cervical is where she's getting that extension. Are you gonna do it again, or are you getting nervous?
Sure. Sorry.
So she looks a lot smoother coming back, although do you see that she's rotating her head to her right as she extends?
Yeah.
So for me, I only take measurements because insurance makes me, but I care much more about this. This is much more interesting to me, and this is where I go, oh man, I'd really like to get my hands on that neck. Because that's telling me that she's going to have some areas of hypomobility at the CT junction, and she maybe has some hypermobility in her upper cervical spine, and she's got something that's asymmetrical because that's when she goes into flexion, she's not wanting to flex symmetrically, so something is going to be asymmetrical in her. So that's all from not taking a single measurement, but just watching her. So you want to make sure that you watch people move as well and not just focus on, I have to get this number, because especially for cervical and lumbar, the quality of movement matters way more than the amount of movement.
Does she, like I said, she skis forward a little bit, so she's forward at the hip and at the shoulder, so she leans here, but then she leans again there.
Yeah.
So she's protracted in forward hip carriage.
When we get to thoracic spine in a little bit, Jen, I hope you'll be my
Sure.
I think we have
partner in
lots
crime.
of horrible thoracic people in the
Yeah.
class. Okay, and then rotation. Let's see what we can make fun of you now. Just kidding. All right. See if we can get this to 0.
You are right-handed. None of you are left-handed, so I'm safe in here. So do you see that her right scapula is a little bit more protracted on that side? So, yeah. So
Probably explains my bad posture.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to look at her curves, and I'll show you how we'll screen her upper thoracic. Just seems interesting. To me, that's what jazzes me about PT. Is that the human body is so variable and everything is interlinked, and so you see something at the shoulder and it'll end up we'll find something in her hip or something. Yeah. Bad knees.
Surgery, what, 2 ACLs, Jen?
1 ACL, but 3 surgeries for it.
You say like 70 in rotation? Does that seem wrong?
So she's doing a little combined motion. So you want to try to
does
keep
that
her.
little ding, ding,
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, and I thought she was a little smoother going left and right, but I was.
Okay, do you want to? Oh, now it says about 60, 64.
Yeah, she was cheating on you before.
Go the other way.
So, for the people who are using it today, what kind of problems came up with using this
60.
in that particular population?
Language. It's hard to describe the motion, and then sometimes we would get it like we would tell them to look or like try to bend like this, but then they'll go like this.
Yeah.
They keep going back and forth.
They also need to move in one plane of motion. They'd be like that.
Yeah. They weren't also sitting up straight, so.
Right, a lot of them were. And so this device, if with the inclinometers, if they're at any kind of an angle, the arrow will get caught on the housing, and so it won't stay vertical. And then the compass as well. If your head is anywhere sideways, that's going to be a problem. Okay. Now, 12 of you got a fair amount of use of it this morning. I still would like you to go ahead and try, but let's let the other 12 concentrate on using those now. I would like to show you the tape measure method right away, because I think the CROM is fairly intuitive. If you can get it out of Mike's
That piece
hands,
comes off.
because he instantly, I knew he would go to that, gravitate to that thing right away and put it on. Like,
Right away.
so I'm going to show you the tape measure method. So Jen, if I promise not to harass you anymore, will you
Yeah,
sit
it's
up here? So the tape measure method is a little bit weird in that you will be reporting a single number instead of a range of motion. So here I just beat it into your head that you need to report a range of motion. When you're using the tape measure, you won't be reporting a range. You can say it. So let's have you kind of relax and then come up. So hard. I know. It's so hard to be you. So for flexion and extension, you're going to go from the tip of the mandible down to the suprasternal notch. So you're going to want them to be in that neutral starting position, and you're going to measure with your tape measure in centimeters with an accuracy down to 1/10 of a centimeter, so a millimeter. So you're going to have a starting position. You're then going to have her flex. You're going to measure that difference. And then you're going to report the difference between the neutral and the flexed. Okay? It's the same landmarks for extension. So look straight ahead for me. I don't really like her posture. And I don't know quite what to do. So the chair is too high, and so that's forcing her to go into a posterior pelvic tilt. And so some of you have felt that when you put the chair underneath your legs, that it's forcing your low back into that position. It's really hard to sit up in a nice, relaxed, neutral posture if you're starting with this really posterior pelvic tilt at the bottom. So it's not all your fault.
All right, good.
Okay? So I'm just going to pull this out a little bit further and just kind of relax your legs. just don't kick it out from underneath you. Okay, go ahead and look straight. I like that. Take a deep breath. Just that kind of pulls you up. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna let that go. So what we're going to do, Jen, is I'm gonna measure how much motion you have in your neck. I'm gonna be using this tape measure. So what I'm gonna be doing is pulling the tape measure to your chin and then to that neck right on the top of your sternum. Okay? And then I'm gonna measure the difference between those two. Alrighty? So what I do is I hold it there. So I'm just going to sneak in here, not so subtly. Go ahead and keep looking straight ahead. So I have her at 13.1. I'm going to go ahead and bend your chin. I know, go ahead. Oh, jeez Louise. Just had to make it hard for me, didn't you? Normally I would want to keep my hand on the chin, and then what I do is let the tape slide in my finger, and then pinch it when she gets all the way down there. There's not enough space for me to do that. Okay? Does that make sense to everyone? So I start with it here, and then as the person flexes, I let the tape slide, and then I pinch, and then I can pull it off and take that measurement. Okay? It's not your fault. Oh, we said it is the patient's fault this year, this semester. It is your fault. So, lateral flexion, we are going to go from the mastoid process to the most lateral aspect of the acromion. Okay? And it's going to be reported in the same way. So, mastoid process right behind the ear. I'm going to hold the tape there. Oh, sorry. The most lateral aspect of the acromion. So, I am at 22.3. Now, Jen, what I'd like you to do is bring your ear down towards your left shoulder. So I was at 22.3, and now I'm at 16.2. It sure would have been easier. Go ahead and go back up if she would have been at 16.3. So she's at 6.1, right? Centimeters. And that's how I would report her left lateral flexion.
How do you report the difference in how you measure it? Do you say via tape measure, or do you say
Because you're measuring in centimeters,
it's just
with
automatically
this,
known?
yeah, you wouldn't get that unit of measure with anything else. Now, with a crom versus a goniometer, you would need to say, because those are going to be in degrees for both. And you should say, because you will get different measurements. Now, rotation, you're going to go from the mandible to the most lateral aspect of the acromion. Okay? So I'm going to have you... So we have her starting here, and she's at 21 point...
She's not looking forward.
Oh, she's looking forward?
There you go.
Okay, so now she's at 22. Now go ahead and look over your shoulder. And now she's at 12.7. Go ahead and relax. So I would do that math, and I would report that difference as her range of motion into rotation to the left. Okay? So for the tape measure method, flexion and extension is mandible to suprasternal notch. Okay? Lateral flexion is mastoid to acromion, and then rotation is mandible to acromion. Right? And you're always measuring towards. Okay? So what I'd like you to do now is practice the crom and your tape measure methods. Break. Break.